so I'll go ahead and get started. If people pop in, they pop in. So first thing, I just want to let everyone know the quizzes are set up so you can take them more than once. I realized this morning that after you take the quiz the first time, it wasn't showing you what questions you got wrong. I have fixed that. If that ever happens again, just let me know. You're supposed to be able to see what you get wrong after the first attempt, so you can go and fix it. But that should be corrected now. If you go in through the Grade Center, or if you just go to take the quiz again, I do believe it should show you what question you got wrong on the first attempt, if you got any wrong, so that you can retake that and get full points on the second attempt. And again, if you don't see that option, please just let me know, and I'm more than happy to fix that. All right, so I want to talk a little bit before we get started and jump in today. Just again, a little bit about the structure of how I've got this set up, because it'll lead into today. So just as a reminder, for your practice, for your modules 1 and 2, before we get to the lab, those are meant to be pretty straightforward. So hopefully you've seen the first script that you filled in module 2.2, and you could see how that worked was I gave you the script, you had the comments, and you filled in the lines. And that's going to be pretty typical of most of the modules for the course. They're going to be pretty much that straightforward for the daily assignments. For the lab, I want to take that just a little bit harder, or further, which is going to be a little bit harder. One of the most difficult things that I find when programming isn't so much writing the code. Somebody tells me write this specific line of code or gives me a comment. That's usually not as bad. It's more taking a real world problem and translating that problem into what code you should use. So the labs are going to help gear you towards that type of thinking. So for the lab, instead of giving you a script, I'm going to give you a PDF, and that PDF is going to ask you to do things. And sometimes those are going to be things that you've seen directly in the videos. Sometimes it's going to be something new that you haven't seen before. And so that's going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but that's part of the reason we're going to work on labs in this environment, is so that I can help you through that uncomfortableness. But once you get past this course and you're using R in the future, that is going to happen a lot. There's going to be code that you're going to need to use that you haven't seen before. And so learning to become adaptive and to be able to look for code and use code that you haven't used before is going to be a really important skill. And so that's a skill that I want to help you build in this course. So how we're going to structure today is, I looked at the Grade Center. I saw some people were able to get the module 2.1 and 2.2 done. Some people haven't, not a big deal. So I was talking to Ron this morning, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some breakout rooms. So Ron is going to take a breakout room, and if you have not completed module 2.1 and 2.2 yet, you're going to join that breakout room, and Ron's going to help you with any problems you have with that work. So you can mute yourself, go ahead and watch the videos, start on that module 2.1 and 2.2. For those of you that have completed that, I'm going to stay in the main room and help you with the lab. So if you go to the breakout room with Ron, once you get module 2.1 and 2.2 done, you can leave the breakout room, come back to the main room, and again, I'll help you with the lab. So but that way we're not all in the same room working on different assignments. I think this will be a good way to partition it. So any questions on that? All right, so first thing I'm going to do is, now I'm going to create these breakout rooms. I have not made them this way before, so we're going to see how this works. It's going to let participants choose the room. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this room. I'm going to rename it module 2.1 and 2.2. So if you are, again, still working on module 2.1 or 2.2, go ahead and leave this room, go to that breakout room. Ron's going to go in there with you. So you'll have time to work on those assignments, ask him questions, and then when you're done, come back to this room and you can work on the lab. Before I do this, any questions? All right. So is it giving you, okay, yes. So does everybody get the option to join a breakout room? Has it given you the option yet? Ron,
yeah, you're good.
It is, okay, good. So yep, go ahead and join that one if you want to, and stay in here if you're going to work on the labs.
Is there an R script we need to download for lab, or
There is not. So that's why I was going to start here. I was letting people leave and then we'll look at the lab part together. For the lab today, you should just see a PDF in Canvas. So in lab, we're actually going to, first thing we're going to do is create the script. So we're going to review how to do that first, and then I'll show you what to do with that PDF. All right, so, okay, Christine did not let me.
I might have to update Zoom.
Yeah, if anybody wants to and they haven't gotten into, just let me know in the chat and I can send you to the room. All right, so if anybody else wants to go to the breakout room, let me know in the chat and I can put you in manually. All right, so the first thing you want to do is go ahead and go to that module 2.3 and find the PDF, and the PDF will be titled Lab 2 R Datasets. And so this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, where instead of me giving you the script, you're actually going to create the script and all of the code from scratch based on what I'm asking you to do in this PDF. And there are going to be two different parts to this lab. The first one is you're going to look at one of the data sets there in R, you're going to explore it, and you're going to do all of that in an R script. Once you've done that data exploration, you're going to take some of that code and then create an R notebook. So to get started, let's just review how to make a brand new R script and get started here. So I'm going to share my screen. So can everybody see my RStudio? Okay. So I've already got some files open up here. You can ignore that. I'm going to actually clear everything out. And so you can have things open here or not. Either way is fine. But you should see this button right up here in the upper left-hand corner that looks like a white piece of paper with a green plus sign. If you click on the drop down, you'll want to select R script, and that will open up a brand new R script for you. Now, just as a reminder, and I try to do this in all of the scripts that I give you, you always want to start the script with some type of comments that remind you what this script is for. So you can either type this in, or usually I'm lazy, so I'll just pull up one of my other files I've already got open, and I'll just copy and paste it over. And then, of course, you'll want to change the comments to match what you're actually working on. And then I would go ahead and save this. So you can save as wherever you want to on your computer. I'm going to call mine Lab 2 example because it's an example on my computer. But for yours, I'd probably call it Lab 2, maybe underscore your last name. All right, so now that you've got a script, you can go ahead and start working on that PDF or on the assignment. So let me stop sharing here. And let's look at that PDF together. All right. So what I've got here is I've got 11 different steps that are going to walk you through in this R script how to explore a data set. And this is one of the pre-built data sets in R. This one's called the MT-CARS data set. So for each one of these, you're going to want to make a comment, so similar to the scripts that I would give you all. So for example, this first one says, use a question mark to learn more about the MT-CARS data set. So what I would do in my R script, and forgive me for bouncing around here, but I will now pull that back up. You don't have to necessarily put the question, but I would put something like 1 and then explore MT-CARS. So you can explore, you can abbreviate what those are, but it should be clear looking at the R script what it is you're going to do in that line of code. And then I would use the question mark, and that should be MT-CARS, not MT-CAR, to complete that. And so you'll want to do that for each of those steps. Now, some of those steps are going to ask you to do things that you haven't seen yet. So you'll want to take the knowledge that you already have and see if you can extend that to figure out how to complete what it's asking for. And now, of course, if you get stuck, that's going to be a great time, to ask me to share screen and we can look at things together. All right, so any questions? Oh, so Samuel's already got a question. Let me see here. So empty cars and one count as two different ways. Yes, but give me just a second here. I don't think. So yes, the answer to that, Samuel, is yes, it does. So the other way that you could do that is by using the $ as well, but those do count as two different ways. That first way can be a little tricky. That will not always work without the comma there, but for this data set, it does. Now, once you get to the point that you've got your R script, you feel comfortable with it, once I get a couple people there, let me know, and I will review the R notebooks as well, but I don't want to overwhelm you here at the beginning. So go ahead and get started on the script. Once you're ready, let me know, and we can review the R notebooks. Cameron, Quentin, are you telling me you're ready for the R notebooks? And Laura, you too, or?
Yep.
Oh, man, y'all are on top of stuff. All right, so let's review our notebooks then. I am impressed. All right. So let me share my R screen. And for those of you that aren't to this step, don't worry, I'll go through it again. All right, so here is our R notebook, our R studio. To make an R notebook, you do it pretty much the same way you would do with a script. You come up here, but now instead of selecting our script, we're going to select R notebook. And remember that the R notebooks, what they do when you create a new one is they go ahead and they populate basically a template that's got some information in it. So we're going to delete out these pieces, but these are always good as a refresher to look at because, again, they're basically telling you how to create one of these. So again, you'll want to go ahead and save as. I'm going to call this Lab 2 Notebook. Again, give it some reasonable name. And then after I make one of these, before I change anything, just like to go ahead and compile it. So that way I know, at least from the base, that it's going to run, it's going to make my PDF or my Word document. And then as I change things, I do this often. So that way, if I mess something up, I've got a good idea of where I've messed up. So to go ahead and change it to the PDF, if you'll click on, it probably says preview to start with, and then you can choose one of these different knit options. So most of you are going to do the knit to PDF or the knit to Word based on what worked well for you last time. So I'm going to do the knit PDF. Oops. Click on it. And there we go. It's being slow. So on my other screen, let me stop sharing here so you can see this. This is the PDF that popped up for me. And again, you may have knit to Word. And so this is just the template. So now what we're going to do is, based off of your script, we're going to go and fill some of these pieces in. So if we look at our directions for the lab, what we're going to do is take some of that information from the script and write a little mini report that we could then give to someone. And using the R notebooks is really beneficial when you're going to give that information to someone else and create a report. So the first thing you're going to do is write a brief written description of the data set. So this is going to come from step 1 up here. So when you use that question mark over on that bottom right-hand window of R, it told you a little bit about this data set. So you're going to write a couple brief lines. And looking in R, so what you can do is just delete out this portion and then type in a couple sentences, if I could spell today. And tell me a little bit about that data set. Now, once you complete step 1, I would go ahead and knit again. Okay. The reason for this is you want to knit often because, again, If you end up with a mistake, that's going to let you know where the mistake is, and it makes it a lot easier to troubleshoot. So you'll notice now my R notebook says a couple sentences about MT cars. Now, one of the things you've got to do is include a plot. Notice in the example chunk of code they give you, they've put a plot in there, so you can do that no problem. And then this also reminds you how to make new chunks of code. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing. Any questions on that? All right, so if you have any trouble compiling, you have any trouble with your code, let me know. And then as we need to, I can review those steps again.
So I'm on number 2. Obviously, I'm much slower than some of them. The data set shows up, but it shows up in console. What do I do with that?
Yeah, so when you are using the class, do you mind to actually pull up your screen? That'll make it a little bit easier. Are you writing the code, when you use the class function, you're putting that in your script, right?
Yeah.
So there's 2 different ways that you're going to be able to pull up the data set. One of them is going to show down in the console. The other way to view it is it should automatically.
So it's all down here.
Oh, I see what happened. So you want to use the class function. So you've got C there, type out class in front of.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. Fine. Okay.
There we go. So that's just telling you that it's already currently a data frame, so you don't have to change anything. Now let me show you how you could actually view MT cars. So if you wanted to view it over in your global environment, we're actually going to see this next week, but there's no harm in seeing it now. If you type, let me go over to my R screen. If you don't mind to stop sharing, I will bring this up on mine so you can see it. Give me just a second. Let me type this out and then I will share. All right. So if you want to view it in a separate window, okay. If you type this line of code right here, so it's called the data function. Essentially what the data function does is it tells R, hey, I want to use one of the data sets that already exist in R, and I want to be able to view it. What you can do is you give it the name of the data set that already exists. And notice when we run this, MT cars appears here in our global environment, but it has the word promise next to it. What this means is you have told R, hey, I'm going to use this data set, but I haven't done anything with it. Now, next time you do something with that data set, so let's say we ran that class line, notice that, well, it does it automatically, but also once we run it, now it actually populates the data set up here, and you can click on it and it will open up here in a separate window. So that's the data sets that already live in R. You can work with them without actually populating them into your global environment. But if you want them in the global environment so you can inspect them, that's a way that you can do that. And let me bring that code over again so you can see that. Was that Shelly? Shelly, did that help?
Yeah, that helped. We don't need to show those on our report or anything. We just have to have the script correct.
That is correct. So
right.
What will happen is in the later steps, when you call pieces from the MT cars data set, those, when you run them in your script, they're going to populate in either the console or they'll populate, the plots will populate in the bottom right-hand window. Now, when you put them into the R notebook, though, the notebook will populate that output into the notebook. And that's one of the advantages to an R notebook when you're writing something for a collaborator. So it's a little bit of that difference between what's happening with a script and what's happening with a notebook.
Okay.
Can we all use LaTeX formatting within chunks?
Yes, 100%. So if you're, I wasn't going to do LaTeX in this course. If you are familiar with LaTeX, 100%. There are a few nuances with the notebooks between LaTeX. Okay, so I'm going to talk technical. You all, if this doesn't make sense what I'm getting ready to say, you can ignore it. So what happens when you make an R notebook is our notebook actually uses something that's called Pandocs, and Pandocs, I'm hoping I get this right, the order here, will convert LaTeX code. Because of that, you can type LaTeX directly into the R notebook, but there will be a couple nuances. Most of the problem will come in when you need particular packages for LaTeX, but up there in the top part of the R notebook, just like in a preamble for a LaTeX document, you can put those packages in, you can do that up there as well, but it's a little tricky. So 100%, and actually if you wanted to do like Greek symbols, anything like that, you use your standard LaTeX code. So you can use, for example, the $2 signs and do like /mu, and it will put a mu in for you. Yeah, and that's for technical documents. These work great for that reason, because you can embed, you know, any type of math type that you want, as well as output from code.
Thank you.
You're welcome. For those of you that know how to code in another language, the R notebooks, you can actually put other languages in there as well. You're not restricted to just including R code. I should say, for those of you that were already on the notebook stage, once you get done and you get that PDF from lab, your work for the week is complete. I will, you know, like I said last time, I'll always either after class today or by tomorrow try to go ahead and get the next module posted. But don't feel like you ever have to start the lab, you know, before lab. Now, if you're curious, you know, let me know. The other thing is, you know, if you get off and you know, you're flying through this code and you want some more challenging stuff, let me know and I can help you out with that too. I figure everybody's going to be at a little bit of a different stage or a different spot starting out.
I have another question.
Yeah. That's what I'm here
This
for.
is like pulling teeth for me, coding.
No, getting started is the worst. Like that's, don't feel bad because it's that way for everybody. I mean, when I first started, it is so frustrating. I'm on 4 now. So output the number of rows and the number of columns in a data. I don't even know where to start on that. Yeah, so there's functions that will do this for us. And I don't remember, give me just a second. Sometimes I've got to remember what I put in the scripts and what, you know, I wanted you to go and kind of search for. I realize that's bad. All right, so do you have your module 2.2 script open by chance?
Yes.
Okay, So if you go down, it's closer to it's in the bottom half of that module 2.2 script. There's a little section I have there called Explore the Data Frame.
I don't, oh, wait, hold on. I don't see that.
Should be in, here, let me pull it up and it'll help.
Explore the data frame.
So here's where it is in my module 2.2 script. So we're looking right here. This section will help you out. No, sorry, not in the one you turned in. This is the one from the video.
Oh, okay, no, I don't have that one turned up open. I have the one that I need to turn in still open,
Yeah.
not that.
Pull up the one from the video will help a lot with this.
Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff for this lab actually comes from the second half, the data frames from that script from the video.
Where was that located on the module?
So it's right above the video.
Okay, oh. No, not that one.
Were you able to find it, Shelley?
Hold on. I'm super slow apparently.
Good.
I'm still finding
This
it.
time of the day, I'm also super slow. It's a little early.
It has to do with the fact that I'm just slow with R. And working on one screen is very difficult with this. I'm considering going in to use a different 2 screens.
That is one of the real struggles, you know, teaching and learning any kind of coding, especially in an online environment. So I definitely appreciate that. It's, yeah, the single screen is definitely a challenge and something I tried to think about when developing the course because it makes it hard.
Okay, so I've got the Explore data frame. Oh. So I just need to use n row or n column,
Exactly.
and then state info would be empty cars.
So for this particular example, state info was the data set. So so here in this video, we read in a data set called state.x77. And so when I read that in, I named it the object state.info. So that's why inside of all of those functions after that, I'm calling that state.info object, because for that script and video, that was the data set we were looking at. For this lab, the data set you're working with is the empty cars.
So I will put empty cars into where it's at, into the parentheses.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I used length to see the number of columns. Would that always work, or is just like a coincidence?
50-50. So sometimes it depends on the structure of the object as to whether or not that will work. So for this one, let me see.
It gave me 11.
What it is doing when you give it that is it's telling you the length. I think it's going to tell you the length of the first row is what it's doing. So that's why that is equal to the number of columns. Really, when you use length, you want to use length on a one-dimensional object. So any kind of vector. For anything that's two-dimensional, like a matrix or a data frame, you're safer to use the in call and the in row. Again, length will work a lot of the times, but it's not really intended for that.
Okay. Thank you.
And you'll find, and I'll say this over and over, but there is always more than one way to do something in R. There's no way I could show you all the ways to do all the things. In some ways, there will be some ways that'll work, but aren't necessarily optimal for the given situation. And this is an example of that, where this works, but it's really not the optimal function to use in this example.
Okay, have a comment.
Shelley, did that work?
Yes, I forgot to forgot to remute myself. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I'm trying to do the Lincoln Continental one,
Mhm.
but I think I might be using the wrong code.
Yeah, do you want to pull up your screen? We can look at it together.
Why does it not allow me to do that? Okay, so I used this one, state.info 1.2, and I changed it to MT cars, and then I put Lincoln Continental in there, but I don't think it didn't run. It said error, so
Yes. So
I did something wrong.
yep. So let's go back to the script that you were just looking at. So let's talk about what the state.info. Let's talk about what that's doing first, and then translate it over. So when you've got state.info, we're going to call the state.info object, and you're going to use square brackets after it. What the 1 and the 2 are doing is that saying you want the information from the first row and the second column.
Oh.
So what you need to do, if you want the Lincoln Continental, you'll have to figure out how to change that. But I would suggest before you do that, so the code lines that are under that, I would figure out what those lines are doing in reference to the state.info data set, and then figure out how you could then pull the information from the Lincoln Continental.
Okay. Why can't I find the Lincoln Continental in my data set for
So
the empty cars? It's not showing up. All I've got is like Mazda, Hornet,
Mhm.
and Porsche, Lotus, Ferrari. Like it's not even showing up in the console.
So because that's what the head and the tail functions are doing. So the head function is only giving you the first 5 rows, and the tail is giving you the last 5 rows.
Okay.
So it's not giving you the full data set there. So to get the full data set, you could do one of 2 things. You could do what I showed earlier, where you called the data MT cars, and then you could click on in your global environment. Or up at the top of the module 2.2 script, you could do the same thing that we did with the state.info. So see where I read state.info in as a data frame? So here we don't have, MT cars is already a data frame, so you don't have to use the as.data.frame function, but you could create a new object set to MT cars and then call that object, and you'll be able to see the different pieces.
Okay.
It might, honestly, it might be useful to just, so the video that goes along with this, it might be useful just to review those couple minutes that go over this chunk of code to see that relationship for the state.info data set, and then translate that over to the MT cars.
All right. I'm going to stop sharing and try.
Is anybody to the step with the R notebooks and having trouble that you'd like me to look at the R notebook with you?
Dr. Ellis,
Sorry
I do
about
have
that.
a quick question about the histogram function.
Mhm.
In the help description, it says you can do, like, of course, you can just do a title in quotations,
Mhm.
and then it has a comma, and then you can put an X name.
Yes.
So for now, I just left off X name and just did a title in quotations.
Oh, that's perfectly fine.
Okay, because I don't know, because like I tried putting in the variable, but then the title just listed, like, for example, histogram of, and then it repeated over and over and over with every like observation in that variable.
Yeah, so in the argument, are you using to create that title? Is the argument you're using, is it called title or is it called main?
I use main.
Okay, perfect. That's the one that I was looking for you to use. So yeah, so you just want to have main and then equals, and then you're exactly right. In the quotations, put what you would like the title to be. Now you can change the labels on the X, or I guess really you would just want to do X for a histogram by using the XLab function if you'd like to.
Okay.
So
All right,
on a histogram, it can get kind of tricky with the arguments. I was trying to see what yeah, so yeah, everybody, for number 8 on the lab, so I say using the title argument, really what you want there, it's not title, it's main. I will make that correction. You can, really what I was saying, what I should have put there was create a title using the main argument, because main in a histogram is what's going to give you the title. So some of the other labels along the bottom of a histogram can get kind of tricky. So for now, if you can just get a title on that histogram, I'd be very happy.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I will put in the chat what I was saying about the main.
So I'm still very confused with the Lincoln Continental thing. I thought I did it right, but it's not working.
Yeah, do you want to pull up your screen? We'll look at it together.
Yeah. Let me figure it out. Okay. So I counted the row and I think I counted right.
Oh, okay. I already see. So you are on the right track here. This is the only thing I want you to change, and we'll see if this works.
Mhm.
So anytime you put quotations around something, R is going to see that as a character and not a number. So
Mhm.
here you want the 14th row, right?
Yes.
So that's really, we want R to read that as a number. So let's take those quotations off of the 14 and try that.
Well, obviously I had the wrong number, but it worked now. So
Now, the other option there, so the reason in the module 2.2 script that we had quotations around things, we weren't calling them by a number, we were calling them by their label. So if you're calling something by, so if we look at.
So if we were just like we could just put in Lincoln Continental on it?
In quotations, and it should work.
Okay, let me try that. Because that would be easier than my random guessing of the number. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, and so there's just keeping in mind the difference between, what's stored as a number and what's stored as a character. Brooke, for your question, oh, she's not, okay, sorry, I will type this in here.
Just like a quick question. I was like struggling with the Lincoln Continental until like you just helped her. So you have to put that comma, because I was just putting like Lincoln Continental and it was just like so mad at me.
Yes, and so the reason for that is whenever you use those square brackets, R is looking for row information and column information. So everything before the comma is going to be row information. So by having the Lincoln Continental before the comma, that tells R, I want you to go find the row associated with Lincoln Continental. And then after the comma, we don't put anything, and that tells R we want all of the corresponding columns. So for example, you could play around with it. And if you did the Lincoln Continental, in quotations, comma, and then 2, for example, it will just give you the Lincoln Continental information for the second column.
Okay.
Oh, okay, great, Brooke. So for number 7, you're still going to do everything in the script. So everything that's under data set exploration, that's going to go in the script. When you get down to data set report, that's when you're going to use the R notebook. So when you create the R notebook, what it's going to do, what you're going to do, is you're just going to be able to copy and paste some of the code from your script. And if that doesn't help, just type in the chat and let me know.
Okay, I'm having problems with 5 still. I feel like I'm putting in the correct code and I'm keep getting error.
Yeah, do you want to pull it up and we look at it together?
This is my headache with this stupid shit. What am I doing wrong? Where is it?
Yep. So
Continental.
anytime we call something by its name and it's a character, characters always have to be put in quotations. So if you put quotations around Lincoln Continental.
I thought you just said don't put quotations around it.
That was when we called it by the number. So you could also call it by whatever the corresponding number for that row is. So if Lincoln Continental is the 15th row, for example, you could put the number 15 there.
I'm sorry for getting confused.
Oh, you're good. Like I said, there's always a really steep learning curve, and then eventually it levels out. But initially, that's just the nature of it. It's frustrating, and that's a perfectly natural part of the process.
Okay, thank you.
Because you're learning a lot of new things at once.
Yeah.
Now, I will add on to that, Shelley, the exception to those quotations is if you use the $ notation. So, and did I show? Yeah. So for example, if you look at that module 2.2 script, you'll see where I called state.info $income. That's just for calling columns, not rows. But if you call a column that way, you do not have to put the quotations around it.
Okay.
looks like we may have had a couple people join us from the breakout room. So really quick, I'm going to just kind of go over a brief overview of the lab again. So if you already heard this spiel, feel free to ignore it. So if you're just joining us for the lab, you'll want to access module 2.3, and you're going to find the following documents. Let me share my screen. So you'll find this document in the module 2.3 lab, and there's two different parts to it. The first part is going to be the data set exploration. You're going to create an R script that does these pieces. And for the data set report, you're going to use pieces from the script to create an R notebook. And so this would be, a document that you could give to a collaborator that's going to have all of that information in it. So just to review how to create an R script for the data set exploration is in RStudio, you can click on the white button, or it looks like a white piece of paper with the green plus sign. Select R script. It's going to open up a blank document. And let me show you. So here's one that I've started to fill in. So don't forget always at the top of your scripts to put a section with comments that just lets you know what that script is for. And then for each of the questions, write yourself a comment just so we know what that code is doing for each of the steps. Once you get done with the R script, I'll go over how to make the R notebooks as people need that. And then of course, if you have any questions, let me know.
I have a non-coding question.
I'm ready.
Let me share my screen with you because I can't seem to save my document. So I go up here and I try to save and nothing happens. And then when I go up here and I try to save as, that comes up.
Yeah, so this will happen every once in a while. Just always choose the system default. So just click OK on it and it should. For some reason it's going to make you save it again because where it was a save as. So I would just save a new, yeah.
Okay. That kind of freaked me out. I didn't want to lose my document. So.
Yeah, no, you're good. But let's try something. I want to make sure that it saves now. Do me a favor. You can type anything on your script. It doesn't matter what it is. Just make some small change. Okay, perfect. And then click save. Okay, perfect. It saved that time. So just as a reminder, so I don't know if you noticed this, but if you look at the top on the tab where it has the file name, anytime you make a change to your file, that file name will turn a slightly different color and it will have an asterisk after it. So that's just to remind you haven't saved it recently. So like if you go down below and you now delete out that MT that you typed in, so you see how the file name turned a slightly different color, now it's got an asterisk after it?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just letting you know, hey, you haven't saved this file. So now if you click on save, the asterisk will go away and the file name will turn white again. There you go. So it's just a visual clue that RStudio gives you to remind you, hey, you haven't saved your file. You've got some changes to it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question about like the brackets. Let me share my screen with you. So when I just use like a single bracket, it gives me the MPG like in a pretty way by car.
Yes.
But like on the video example, you said to use like the double brackets.
Yep. So the double brackets are just going to give you, yeah, so go ahead and run it with the double and we'll compare the difference.
It's not letting me. Sorry.
Yeah, sometimes it wants to autofill those brackets or even quotations sometimes. And
yeah.
So if you'll compare, notice the numbers are exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
So 21.4 is at the end of both of them.
Yep.
If you are just viewing the column, the single bracket is good because you're exactly right. It gives you the car information. One of the advantages to the double bracket is usually when we're working with data, I'm not going to call that column so I can look at it. I'm going to call that column so I can work with it. So if you use the double brackets, it's just reading it in as the numbers without that extra information. So when we go to do things, for example, make a histogram. So let's look at your histogram right now. So in the
Mad at me.
histogram, the first argument you're actually going to want to give it is the data that you want to make a histogram of. So notice what you really want to make a histogram of is that MPG data, right? That column of data. So you just wrote some line of code that calls that particular column, and we want to make a histogram of that column. So to do that, we can't just tell it, I want you to make a histogram of MPG, because ours is going to tell you, I don't know what MPG is. You have to give it both the data set and the column so it knows to where and go and look for it. So if you take that MT cars with your double brackets,
So I have to
copy
put,
that whole line of code and now pop that into the histogram.
no, wait, like here?
Yep, because notice that whole thing, that is the data set for MPG.
Okay, got it.
So now run that. And there you go. So you got to remember, R is smart, but it's not that smart. So when you ask it for things, you have to be very clear about what you want. And since MPG by itself, again, is not a thing that R recognizes MPG from the MT cars data set. You have to give it all of that information. Now, there are ways around that, but the way that we've got this written, that's how we have to go about it. And if you want to, you can try. So those 3 different ways that you called the variable MPG, you could put any of those into the histogram because all 3 of those are calling, that piece of the data. So you could put all of them in there.
Cool.
And it's going to give you the exact same histogram.
Cool. Thank you.
Be careful, you deleted out that second way up there when you
I did.
and you cut it.
I did. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question, and it kind of leads off what we were just talking about. Let me share my screen real quick. So I'm trying to figure out adding the title using the main or the title argument, and kind of my question would be, that's basically what I'm trying to do, except in reading kind of these help pages is something that is not exactly intuitive to me.
Yeah. No, and that is going to be one of the struggles. And again, that's why we do these here, because you're exactly right. The help files are great, but they're not always the most intuitive when you go to read them. Your line of code that you've got that you ran before this one, you are so close. So what I'd like you to do is take that line of code that you've got down there in the console, that one, copy it. Let's put it up in your script, and then I'll help you fix it. All right. So you've done a great job here in that you've called the correct data. We've called the MPG. Now we just have to fix your argument. So let's talk about the difference between an argument and a function. So a function is going to have the open and closed parentheses after it. So right now you're treating main like a function, not an argument. For an argument, we're going to use an equal sign. So instead of having the open and closed parentheses, good, do an equal sign instead. And now run that.
Still use the quotations?
Yep, because that's going to be a character, and that's going to be what we want the title to be. There you go.
Got it. So that kind of helps with in reading the help page, when I'm trying to add on to any of these other arguments.
Exactly. See how they've all got the equal? And notice in this one where you've got main equals, notice they've used that paste function in there. So we've seen the paste function before. What the paste function is going to do is it's going to take that character screen histogram of, and then it's got comma X name. Now notice how xname does not have quotations around it. The reason for this is the way they've got this written is assuming that you've made a new object called xname, where xname is a different character string. And so you're pasting together two character strings, histogram of and xname. If you want me to, if you stop sharing your screen, I can share mine and show you what that would look like.
Sure.
So, all right, so here's my screen. So if we wanted to make that histogram, just like you've got MT cars. I'm going to do mine slightly different. I'm going to use the $sign notation. The $sign notation is great. I don't know if you all noticed this, and I can't remember if I put in the video or not, but notice if I give it the name of the data set, $sign, it automatically pulls up all the variables for me, and I can just use a drop down to select. So I'm going to have main equals, and then I'm going to have to give it something, right? So if we think about what I might want the name of a histogram to be, I might want it to be histogram of MPG, for example. And so I can run this and notice it'll put histogram of MPG up here. Now, what they're doing up there, instead of creating the character string this way in the help file, they're creating it a different way. What they're doing is they're making an object called xname. Was it xname or names? I can't remember. Sorry.
It was xname.
Xname. And so what they're doing is they're saying, well, you could make a new character string called xname, have it called MPG. So just like we did in the first part of the module 2.2. And then what they're doing is they're using the paste function. And the paste function, what it's going to do is it's going to paste together histogram of, and then xname, which is MPG. And then I need another parenthesis here. And so notice if we run this, you get the exact same thing. So again, there's always more than one way to do something. You could, and let me just copy and paste it over, like what I did the first time, which was just give the character string as an argument to, give the character string directly to the argument, or you can use the paste function like we did at the beginning of the module 2.2 to create that character string. Either way, you're going to end up with the exact same title. Does that help some with what that help function is showing?
Yeah, but if you're creating a new xname, like you've done a new value for that, you still have to type in that function as it's written in the help file in order to get that title change right. So you have to write that paste histogram of comma xname. It's just basically giving you an outline.
You don't. So are you asking, do you have to use this piece?
I'm kind of like, I'm curious, like the way they have that written, if you just change the xname, is that kind of piece already like hardwired into the histogram function?
No,
so
no,
that
no.
it would, okay.
It is not. So
Got it.
actually let me back up before I don't believe it is. I think they just have it there for illustration, saying that you could paste a character name in there. I don't believe, yeah, they don't have xname listed as one of the arguments. So I think they just have that there as an example of how you could create the character string for the title. But I think, you know, if we were just to put xname here, let's try it. So let's say I hadn't run this. So I'm going to remove it from my history. So notice xname is not a thing. If we run this as written, it's going to tell me I don't know what that object is. I don't know what xname is. So it's really what they've done in the help function is they have just made that a placeholder, let it in. Really what you've got to do is define that thing outside and define it to be the character string that you want. And there's nothing special about xname here. So for example, I could do the following. I could put, I don't know, coffee. I mean, just a goofy name there that's not, you know, holds no real meaning in terms of, you know, what's going on in this histogram. And I could call coffee, you know, my name, if I could spell my own name right. And if I run this, it's still going to work. So that xname is really just a placeholder for a character string that you've created. Does that help some? And don't worry, we're going to spend 2
absolutely.
weeks on plotting. This is just kind of a preview. We're gonna spend two whole weeks on just plotting.
So I have the code right, but every time I run it, it says it's too large.
Ah, yeah. So bring up your screen. This is a great. This happens all the time when plotting, and it's super annoying.
So it's like I copied and pasted exactly what.
Yeah. No, your code's great. That's not the issue at all. That bottom right-hand window, if you make it too small, it won't make the plot. So all you gotta do is click and drag, make it bigger, and run your code again.
Okay.
That happens to me all the time. It's super frustrating because I'll forget about it. And I'll be like, why isn't this running? And it's just your window's too small.
Cool. I was very confused.
Yeah, no, you're good. That happens to me all the time. Is anybody stuck anywhere and wants to share screen and look at anything? Feel free to, you know, anytime you're stuck, feel free to jump in.
I just had a quick question. I don't think I need to share my screen or anything. It's actually about the R notebook.
Yeah.
Sorry if I missed it earlier, but what do you mean by like code to read in the data set?
Oh yeah, so that's yep. So that is, you can do this a couple different ways, and give me just a second here. Yep. So for this one, probably be easier if I share my screen. Let me. So if you look at the module 2.2 script, one way that we read in this data set was with this line right here. Now, when I read this in, I changed it to an as.data frame because state.x77 wasn't already a data frame, it was a matrix. The MT cars is actually already a data frame. So what you can do, and I'm doing this here in the script, but you know, you could do this in the R notebook. There's a couple different ways that you could do this. You could give it a new name. So you could do cars underscore data, and you could just set it equal to MT cars, because notice we don't need to transform it. We can just call it in as it is. And notice now I've got a data set up here called cars data, and then you could apply all your functions to cars data. So that's one way. The other way that I didn't show you in the videos, but if you want to, you could do it this way. If you just want to keep it called MT cars, you can use this data function. And let me clear out my environment so you can see this. If you run this line of code, what it does is it tells our, hey, oh, mine's not going to do it now because I already have it. I've already used it. When you run this the first time, what it's going to do is MT cars is going to appear up here, and it's going to have what says promise. And you're basically telling R, expect me to use this data set. So expect to pull it forward and be ready to use. And then as soon as you do anything at all with the data set, it'll automatically populate. Either one of those methods would work for that. So you're basically just pulling the data set forward in some manner so that the R notebook can use it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is anyone having trouble getting their R notebook started yet? Are you to that step and need me to show you how to open up a new R notebook? Anybody need a review on that?
I do not seem to have my little knitting ball.
Mm-hmm. So it might start out, does yours say preview?
No, there's no preview here.
Do you mind to share it for me?
Yeah, hold on 1 second.
Yeah, it might also be, make sure that you've got the notebook highlighted at the top and not the script. If you've got the script active, the knit won't show up. So the knit will only appear if you have an R notebook file active.
Hold on 1 second. Okay, so this is my screen right now. I have this little guy and I have the wand.
So that's because, so what you've got right now is just the script. So you haven't made your R notebook yet. So see how it has .r after it?
Yes.
Scripts will always be a .r file. So the next thing is now you've got to create a new file, which is the R notebook.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that step. Okay. So now I got to do this and then just copy paste everything into it, right?
Well, you won't copy and paste everything. So you'll
Just
just
the
take
things.
pieces of it. Yeah. So you'll take pieces from the script to build the report, which will be in the R notebook.
Yeah, and I am starting this right now because I am finished with code. So I am kind of, if you're ready to walk through that,
Yeah.
after I get this titled, I would like that.
Yep.
Personally, I don't know if anybody else is there yet, but.
Yeah, if you want to stop sharing, I'll go through it on my screen again. Okay. All right. So to make the script, the R notebook, you'll click on the R notebook, and then you'll want to change the title. So you can call this hello. And lab 2, Made Alice. What? Give it a reasonable title. You could call it MT Cars Beta Report. Some kind of reasonable title. The next thing you'll want to do before you change anything is go ahead and save this. So you could save as, whatever you want to call this. The one I did before, let's see, I saved it as Lab 2 Notebook. But make sure you save that file. And then I'm actually going to go over to the one that I made earlier, so I don't have a ton of these. Now, one thing to notice is that this file is now a .rmd. So anytime you have a .rmd file, that's how you know it's a notebook and not a script. So before you change anything in here, what I would do is go ahead and knit. Now, the first time you click here, it's going to say preview, but then choose which one you're going to knit to. So for example, I knitted to a PDF, you might be knitting to Word. Go ahead and knit it with that template just to make sure it knits and you don't have any problems. Once you have that, then you can go in here and start changing things. Shelly, did that help? Did that answer give you enough to get started there?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
On the report, do you want the histogram or the box plot?
Your choice.
Cool.
For where you said the code to read in the data set, do you just want like the question mark quote or the...
Yeah, so there's a couple. Let me share screen. So you've got a couple different options here. You could use something like this, which is, this is close to what we did in the module 2.2. So here I'm reading it in cars and I've named it cars data. And then, you know, everything you do after that, you would call the cars data set or cars underscore data. That's one way to read in the data. The other way is, and this I didn't show you in the video, this I showed you today, is to use this data function. So you can do data and then put MT cars in the middle, and that will pull the MT cars data set forward so R can use it. Either method will work. Oh, let me show you guys my email. Sorry about that.
When we're doing descriptive statistics for the notebook, that's basically just the summary statistics command? Is there a
Yes.
different function we should use?
Nope, that summary is perfect.
Okay.
Brooke, what you have, that sounds correct. So what that table is showing you, so one of the variables in this data set is how many gears the cars have. So what this is telling you is you've got 15 cars that have 3, 12 that have 4, and 5 that have 5. So in other words, the table function is a really good way to summarize either categorical data, or if you have, you know, numeric or quantitative data, but that just takes a few or just has a few outcomes. The table function is a really handy way to get that summary of the counts. One thing, don't forget with those R notebooks, you'll want to, you know, knit them often. So that way, if you do run in with an issue, it's easy to figure out, you know, at least where the issue occurred because, it'll be in the piece since the last time you knitted. So I usually, after every time I add something new to an R notebook, I tend to go ahead and knit, and that just makes troubleshooting a lot easier. Also, as a reminder, don't forget I am recording each of the labs. So if you ever want to go back and maybe see something that I corrected or, question I answered after lab, I will always post those to the corresponding module on Canvas. So for example, last week's lab is in the module 1.3. This one will be today in the 2.3.
When we're turning in the notebook, we're not turning in the RMD file, even though that's what it saves as. We want to turn in the PDF file.
Exactly. You'll want to turn in the PDF. And so those are automatically generated into the folder on your computer, wherever that RMD is stored.
Okay, thank you.
And then just to note, if you do knit that to a Word document, make sure that you open that in Word and then save it as a PDF. Yes, so John just asked if you can leave and come back. Yes, please do. Now I will warn you, John, if we get towards, the end, closer to the end of class, if everybody's gone, I will typically leave. I won't stay around till 12:15, but as long as people are still in the room, I will be here. And then of course, if after class, you all have questions, please feel free to email me. And then I'll also hold office hours on Monday again. I'll try to always do office hours on Monday since work is due, Monday at midnight, to make sure there's always that chance on Monday that if you need to ask questions, you have that opportunity.
Dr. Ellis, was it asked? I think you already said this, but maybe I wasn't paying attention. What does it mean by code to read the data set?
Yeah, so let me share my screen. So there's two different ways that you can do it. So I should move these. So this is, I'm going to call it method 1. So this is the one that you actually saw in the module 2.2 video. So in that video, we had the states data set that was in a matrix. So we used the as.data frame to convert it over to a data frame. Now mtcars is already a data frame, so we don't actually have to put that function around it. We can just give the object a name. So I've called it cars data. You can call whatever you want to. And then I've set it equal to the mtcars data set. So this is the first way. And you'll notice up here, it's called cars_data. And now any function that you use, so anything from your script, when you put it in your notebook, make sure that when you call it as cars_data. Now the other method, and this is the new one, this one wasn't in the video, you'll actually see it in future videos, is you can use what is called the data function. So what this one does is it tells R, hey, I'm going to use the mtcars data set. I want you to go ahead and pull it forward. And so if you run this one, you can just call mtcars directly, just like you did in the script. So
Okay.
either of these methods will work. Does that help?
Yeah, so you just have to write that on our notebook.
Yep, exactly.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
For the number 3, the descriptive statistic, do you just want like the summary code or?
Exactly, just the summary code.
Okay, do we need to have like, yeah, I guess that's it.
Brooke, I will try to, so I already have the module built. I just need to double check it before I post it. My Thursdays are pretty jam-packed, so I will try to do it on Thursdays, but more realistically, it'll probably be on Fridays that I actually get that uploaded. And then I should say, so this is the first time this class is ran, so all of the materials are brand new, all the videos are brand new. So if you all see something, since I'm still building stuff, for example, if the text is too small in the videos, or if there's something I can do, to make that more accessible, just shoot me an email. And if possible, I will do my best, to adjust those as I make new ones.
Do you want our little file, the notebook, to have the descriptions in it, or do you want like, because it says that you can like, it shows up if you hit the play button, I guess.
So there are, if you don't mind to show your screen for me, I'll show you a trick. So there are, well, not really a trick, but functionality with notebooks. So within the RMD file, you can preview what the output of your code is going to look like, just like you've done here. So when you click that little button there to the right, it just runs what's inside of that chunk, and it gives you a preview of what it's going to look like. Now, if you go ahead and knit it, it will automatically appear in that document when you knit it, whether or not you run those chunks individually in the RMD file, if that makes sense.
Okay. So you want that. And then just for little sentences about it, do you just want us to like basically repeat what the...
Yeah, I just want you to say, you could say something, for example, looking at this, notice the mean and the median are almost the same. We've got, from the max to the min, we can see that miles per gallon have a pretty good range. I mean, we've got almost a range of 20 there. So just a couple, nothing real technical, but just the idea here is, and this is really, getting at the idea of building reports, looking at data. You never just want to give output. You always want to help your reader pull some of the important pieces from that output.
Okay.
But again, nothing super technical.
I'm just looking at the PDF for Lab 2, and when you say comments are worth 3 points for the data set exploration for the R script, what exactly do you mean by that?
Oh, so I just mean like your comments, like, sorry, let me share my screen. So I don't necessarily mean the content of the comments, I mean like your actual coding comments. So like, let me pull up. So here's my module 2.2 script. Like all of these are comments. So basically the lines that tell you what the code is doing. So for this one, you know, you'll want to have comments that are like, you know, where you worked on number one. So number one was explore empty cars. And then you had your code that does that. The next one was check to see if empty cars as a data frame could be the next comment. And then you have the class function after that.
For this assignment, I pretty much just kept the comments the exact same as they appeared in the PDF. Is that something that would be acceptable, or are we supposed to kind of put our own spin on it?
No, that is perfectly fine. Eventually I would like you to get to where you're putting your own on there, because again, so the comments, really who they're for is you. Therefore, when you go back and read code in the future, you know exactly what it was you were trying to do. And for stuff like this, it almost doesn't seem necessary, because for some of the stuff, it's pretty obvious. But if you can get in that habit of leaving comments now, your future self will love you much more. As someone who didn't develop that skill like, you know, early on, it's definitely something I wished I had. So that's why I'm kind of forcing that on you all. Is just always, I'm always going to require you to do comments on your code, just because it's such a good habit to get into. Trust me, there's nothing worse than reading code from 6 months ago that you didn't comment and just thinking, what was I trying to do here? So, but to answer the short answer to your question is, that is perfectly fine if you copy that directly from the PDF.
Cool, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Daniel. And Brooke, I will do my absolute best to get that out for you. Like I say, I've got it all built. I just need to double check. Like I said, where everything's new, I'm bound to make mistakes, but I'm trying to make as few mistakes as possible so I don't confuse you all. For those of you that just joined, welcome back. I know Ron has to leave at 11. So if you're not to the lab yet, no worries. Feel free to ask me questions on anything you're stuck on.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
See you, Ron. Thank you.
I think I got it. Can I just like share my screen really quick?
Oh, please do, yeah.
So pretty much this, like the title, and it froze. So the title, the codes, the summary, a brief interpretation, the graph, and just like.
Yep, I think that looks great. And again, you know, the real benefit to these notebooks are, you know, you can see it's really nice because you can basically combine code as well as interpretation. So when it comes to sharing the results of a data analysis, these are incredibly useful tools, and they're also good for reproducibility when it comes to, you know, analyzing data and just being very clear about what you did and what the results were. So I think that looks great.
Cool, thank you.
So it doesn't look like my knitted PDF is automatically saving to my file where the R&D file is saved.
Yeah, do you mind to pull up your screen? It should be, but it might
Sure.
be.
And I think last week it did, which is why I'm a little confused.
Yeah, because normally, yeah, it should. But let's, so I'm gonna have you do me a favor. If you go to the bottom right-hand screen, or the bottom right-hand window where your plot is, do you see the tab that says Files? So this is a file explorer that we can use this to explore all the files on your computer. So do me a favor, if you see to the right, okay, yeah, you can navigate this way. There's also on the right, there's these tiny 3 dots that are in a row. Yeah, that will open up kind of an easier navigator that you can navigate through your computer. Perfect. And then just click on open for me. It won't open the individual files. It'll just open the folder here. Yeah, so if you click open now, so just in the bottom right hand corner, click on open.
Oh, my bad.
Oh, no, you're good. So now see in this window, it's pulled all those files that are in there. All right, so your RMD is there. Oh, okay. So see, you've got an error. That's why. So look in your console. You see how it's telling you there was an error?
Yeah,
That's
now I
what's
see
wrong.
that.
So we got to figure out why it's got an error.
I had that period at the end because I think it wasn't running all the way. Like we talked about that last class. Like maybe sometimes it messes up. But
let's delete out line 27 and 26 for me. And go ahead and click on knit. I just want to see what it's doing. It's creating your text file.
looks like we got it.
Yeah, I don't know why yours is doing that. I think it's just having trouble with some of those last lines. And I don't really have a good reason for why it would be doing that.
That's okay.
Double click and it should open. Oh, I think it's because you're just sharing this window. Did it open up the PDF for you?
Yeah, it did. And it looks like it's saved in the file now.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, if that happens in the future, try that. It's weird though, because where you had that period on the last line, I wouldn't have thought that would cause an issue. And really, I thought the only time it had trouble with the blank lines was if they were immediately after a code chunk. See, I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of why it would do that. So yeah, if it happens again, we'll just troubleshoot it as it happens. And then if I, have a brilliant moment this morning and think of why that's not working, I'll shoot you an email. But for right now, we'll just troubleshoot it as it happens.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, Brooke, that is correct.
So, Dr. Elise, I just want to make sure I understand it right. So for our notebook part, we just write down the descriptions instead of code?
No, so you're going to do both. So if we look at the steps, let me share my screen again here. So here in the data set report section, it kind of alternates. So for example, for number 1, you are just going to be typing a description.
Right.
But notice for number 2 and 3, that's when you're actually going to include the code.
So I'm gonna just put the code like I'm gonna like start a new project and write a code, and then when the code is done, I copy paste in our notebook.
Yes. So most of this code should already be written from the data set exploration. So most of this you're just going to copy over from where you did this step. And let me bring my RStudio back up. So don't forget, when you create your notebooks, that anytime you bring in data sets, or probably anytime you bring in code, not data sets, anytime you bring in code, it's got to be within
Okay.
Within a code chunk is what it's called, but a section like this, if you just tried typing code outside of that, it won't run. It's just going to read it as regular text.
Right. Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What does it mean by output? I get that we have to put in the code, but what does output mean exactly,
Yeah.
Dr. Ellis?
So the output is going to be automatically generated for you. So in our notebook, sorry. Right. So we've got my screen here. If we knit this, I don't think I've changed anything. It should still work. Give it just a second. So if we compare, can you see both the PDF and the RStudio now?
Yeah.
So notice in the RStudio, all I gave it was this line of code that said plot cars. But when it actually knits, it gives me both the code and the output is included.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that output will be automatically generated. Now, there are ways, and I haven't shown you this, that you can actually suppress that output and you don't have to have the output in the R notebook. But for right now, in all of your R notebooks, I want both the code and then the output that's created from that code.
Okay.
All right, so we've got a couple new people that came over from the breakout room. So I just want to go over again how to get the lab started. So if you've already heard this spiel, again, feel free to ignore. All right, so if you're just getting started on the lab, let me share my screen again. You will want to go to module 2.3, and you're going to find a PDF that looks like this. And so there's two pieces to the lab. There is the data set exploration. So in the data set exploration piece, this is where you're going to create an R script that contains these 11 pieces, and you'll want to make comments for each of them. Once you get done with this R script, the second piece in the data set report, you're going to create an R notebook. And this R notebook is going to incorporate pieces of code that you wrote in the R script. So once you get to this second piece and you make that R notebook, you'll be able to just copy and paste some of your code from the data set exploration. So as a reminder, to make a brand new R script to complete the part 1, you'll come up here to what looks like a white piece of paper with a green plus sign, click on it, and select R script. That will open up a blank R script. And remember, for any R script, we always want to start it with some comments. So you can just, pick one of the other files we've already worked on. You can copy and paste those over, and then of course, change them to match what we're doing for this script. And then you'll go ahead and get started. And then of course, as you have questions, just jump on in. So Brooke, the R notebook will also have the summary function. That is going to be what you'll use for step 3. So step 3 in the data set report, the summary function will give you all of those descriptive statistics for that MPG variable. So that'll actually come before the plotting. Now for the plotting one on 5, you only have to include one of the plots, and the choice is up to you as to which one you include.
Dr. Ellis, would you mind if I share my screen to see if this is what you want on the when you knit it to Word?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So how does that look? I don't know if there's the code on 5 and 3, but no output.
It's not giving you your output. So let's look at your RMD file in RStudio and see if we can figure out what's going wrong there.
All right.
All right, so there's your, okay. So anytime, so if you go up to the top for me.
Yeah.
Do you see how in the histogram section right here, do you see how this is what we call a code chunk. Do you see how it's got the gray bar behind it and it's got the code in it?
Oh, okay. Yeah, like this right here.
Exactly. So That's why you're not getting output, because right now R is just seeing those as just plain text. It's not seeing it as code. So you have to put it in one of those types of sections. So one way you can do it is you can copy and paste that, or if you go up to the top and you click on, sorry, give me just a second here. I forget what the symbol looks like. It is, do you see the little green box with a C in it and a drop down? Yep. Click drop down on that, and you're going to enter an R chunk. So you'll click on R. And notice that creates an empty chunk for you. And then you can add the code to those chunks.
Okay, perfect. That makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then if that doesn't work after that, just let me know.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
That's correct, Brooke. That's exactly right. So Brooke, so for this, oh, okay, yeah, I was gonna say, and you could also change it. So you could run summary for gears or for MPG. So the summary function can be applied to any piece of the data set.
Hey Amanda, I just submitted the lab assignments, but I realized I made a mistake in the code on one of the questions, so I just resubmitted that. So you'll get it's the second file.
Gotcha. That's no problem on my end. So what Canvas does, if you do multiple submissions, it just shows me both of them in a drop down, and I just automatically grade whatever the last one you turn in, if that makes sense.
I wrote a comment with it, so it's the one that has the comment.
Perfect. Yep. No, and it should be,
Okay.
as long as it's the last one you submitted, it automatically just has me grade that one.
Okay, perfect. And so if we've submitted and are done, we can head out?
Yep. If you don't have any questions, you're free to go. Of course, if you have questions between now and next time, just let me know. But yep, once you get done with the lab, you are free for the day.
All right, thank you. Have a good week.
You too.
Earlier you mentioned about the quiz mess up stuff. If you had already taken it twice because you didn't know which one you missed, can we retake it again?
Yep, I will fix it right here while we're on the.
Thank you, because I took it twice on Monday and I couldn't figure out which one I got wrong.
Yeah, no, that's 100% my fault. Let me figure out how Canvas will let me fix it, but I'm happy to do that.
Thanks. I don't know. Now I know what I got wrong, but I guessed and I got another one wrong.
Yeah, no, that was completely unintentional on my part. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to give you all 3 attempts on it, so that way I'll automatically add one.
Cool. Thank you.
Second, I'll fix that. You should have another attempt now. If not, let me know.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's working.
Perfect. Is anybody to the notebook part and having any troubles? Or yeah, still on the script and having troubles? Is anybody having troubles is what I should ask.
I know I'm kind of the needy child asking for this again, but can I share my screen? Because
Please do. No, that's the whole part. That's the whole reason I had the class set up, or I set the class up this way, because it really is the easiest way to fix stuff. It's just share screen.
so I think I'm good on all the other stuff.
Yeah, this
All
is
my
good.
outputs are showing, but on number 2, it just says this data frame.
Yeah, so that's actually the output from the class function.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so anytime that you have code, anything that appears down in the console or the plotting window, that's what's going to appear in your R notebook. So since the class function tells us, what class MT cars is, and it's a data frame here, that's why it's giving you that output.
Okay, so let's go back here. So should I just have it be data?
Oh, you leaving the class in there is perfectly fine. There's no harm in that.
Oh, so that's the output we're looking for, I guess.
Yeah. So
Oh, okay. I didn't know if it was supposed to spit out the like the whole data set that we got down in the console. But that makes sense.
No, and you could have it do that, but usually that's unnecessary. If you wanted it to do that to your code, you could just add MT cars by itself. So if you have MT cars by itself, R views MT cars as an object since you use that data function, and
Yeah.
it would spit it out, and you would have that. So if you wanted the whole data set in your document, that's how you could do that. If you want to try it, we can see what that looks like. Now, whether or not you want to do that.
Nah.
Okay,
That
I was
would
gonna say, if it's a small data set, it might make sense to put it in a report. But
Yeah.
honestly, most of the time we're not working with small data sets, so you probably don't want that whole data set in there.
Okay. And is any of this stuff up top necessary, or should we just
Oh no,
drop
you
it?
can delete that out because you've got that down below.
Okay, perfect. That's what I thought. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, and Quentin, don't forget to save that as a PDF before you submit it. Like in Word, you'll save as a PDF.
Oh, save it as a PDF in Word.
Yep.
Okay, because I was having trouble knitting it to a PDF. It gave me the spinning ball of death because I'm on a stupid Mac.
Yeah, that's the only thing. If you knit it to the Word, is then save it as a PDF once it's in the Word document.
Okay.
Or once you open it in Word, it's kind of a
Perfect.
workaround there.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Quentin, were you able to get that over to the PDF? Did that make sense?
Yeah, transferred right over.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Christine, I haven't heard from you in a while. How's the script going?
Oh my gosh, I was unmuted the whole time. I'm so sorry. You could hear me.
Oh, you were good. You were very quiet. I could tell you still,
I was actually writing you. Okay, so, just to clarify, I did the question mark and head and question mark at tail just to make sure I knew what those functions were.
Perfect.
So it looks like from the table, is it the first few variables in the beginning of the data and then the last few variables in the data? Is that what it is?
That's exactly what it is.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure before I continued that I knew what I was looking at.
Yeah. So, and I think, I can't remember, it's either the first 5 or the first 6 rows, and then you have the last 5 or the last 6 rows. But it's usually just a good, just kind of sanity check. Because, every once in a while you read something in, you read it in wrong, or maybe everything's missing, and it just gives you a quick snapshot to do things look the way I think they should look.
Okay. Or is this is this data even usable?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it good? Check. Okay.
And there's a lot, and we'll go through in the future. Basically, you're going to just, in this course, you're going to get everything in like little chunks, and it's going to build on itself. Later on, we'll talk a lot more about data management, how to manipulate data, how to check data. You're going to see a lot of ways to view data and check data when you read it in. So
Okay.
I can do a whole section on just like missing values, for example. Like how do we check for missing values and figure out where things are missing and things like that.
That's exciting. Okay.
Yeah, by the end, you'll be able to do tons of things with data. Lots and lots of things with data by the end of it.
Dr. Elise?
Yeah.
How can we read the code to read in the data set and the question 2 for our notebook?
Yeah, so there's 2 options. Let me bring up my RStudio. There we go. So there's 2 methods. The first method is like the module 2.2 notes. So if you use this method, what you can do is you can just assign a new object. So for example, cars_data to be equal to the MT cars data set. And so if you run something like this, well, it was already in mine, but cars data populates up here. Now, if you do that, you have to be careful because all of the code that you run after that, you don't want to refer to MT cars. You're going to call the data set cars_data. The second method, which I think most people are using, which I didn't show you in the video, is to use this line of code. What this line of code does is it tells R, hey, I'm going to use the MT cars data set, so I need you to pull it forward. And so if you run that line of code, it will bring it forward. And at first up here, it's going to tell you MT cars, and it's going to say the word promise next to it. But then as soon as you do anything with the MT cars data set, it's going to be available to you to use. Like I said, I think most people were using this method, but this method is also valid, whichever one you want to use.
But actually, when can I share my screen?
Yeah, let me stop mine.
Is this the right way to run code in our notebook?
Yeah, so we can't use the read.mtcars. So the read function, so like read.csv, those are if you're going to actually read in like a CSV from your computers. MTCars is a data set that already lives in R. So that's why we're really just pulling it forward so that we can use it.
Cool. Thanks.
So now be careful. So anytime that so go back to your script for me if you don't mind.
Script. What is script?
That's the file that you've got right next to it. So the part 1 of the assignment that you did when you made the R script. Yeah. So the one next to that one, to the right of that one. Yeah, there you go. All right, so do you see here how, for example, you did head MT cars and tail MT cars?
Yes.
So now in your R notebook, you've renamed that data set to be cars_data. So any code that you copy over, you're going to want to refer to it as cars_data and just change that for the notebook.
Okay, cool.
Does that make sense? Because it's just because how you read in the data set.
Right. Do I need to change the empty cars in the script?
So the script can stay as it is. The script is perfectly fine. It'll just be in the
Right.
notebook. You're now calling the data set cars_data.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. So if you all will give me a moment, I will be right back. Christine, you look confused. I have that face all the time.
I'm trying out the output the information, and Google says to do this. So
Oh, wait. Is this for the notebook?
no, this is for just exploring the data set. Sorry, I'm really behind.
Yeah, let's look at your screen. Which step are you on?
Oh, I'm on a, what do you mean? Like I'm on a Mac?
Oh, no. Which step in the assignment?
Oh, like step output the information for Lincoln Continental.
Yes. Okay.
See, like this doesn't look right.
You're close. So let me direct you. If you look at the module, which one? It's module 2.2.
Okay.
So most of this comes from the second half of that script.
Mm-hmm.
So if we look at those notes, sorry, I'm looking on my screen for where I put them.
I think I downloaded it. I did download it, but I'm trying
Yeah, I was just going to bring it up so that way you can see it. If you stop sharing for a second, I'll pull mine up. Here we go. Welcome back, Cameron. All right, so if we look here, this is the type of stuff that you want. So if we look at some of these, notice what's going on here. For this example, we had a data set named state.info.
Mm-hmm.
And if I wanted to call the first element, or probably the first row and the second column, that's what this bracket is doing.
Yes.
So here, for this data set, I wanted the information from Kentucky, and I wanted Kentucky's income information. So let's talk about your data set that you're working with. So is your data set named state.info?
No, it's called the motors.
Yeah, MT cars,
MT.
right?
Yeah.
So you'll put MT cars here, and then, sorry, you'll want the square brackets. Do you want information about Kentucky?
No, I want about Lincoln Continental.
So how could we change that to get Lincoln
So
Continental?
we'll change the brackets, put brackets around Lincoln Continental.
Perfect. And then there's one more piece you need. We want all of the columns for Lincoln Continental, right?
Right.
So you still have to put the comma, but then you don't put anything after it.
Done.
And then that'll give you all of the columns.
Okay. Do I keep the quotations and just keep the
Yes.
quotations empty?
No, don't put nothing there.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you so much for your help.
You're welcome. And if that doesn't work, let me know.
Okay.
Dr. Ellis, I had a question. I don't know if this is a good time or not. Okay, so I had uploaded what I thought were the correct, documents to the Canvas.
Yeah.
For lab 2. But then when I was canceling out of my stuff in R script, it was like my R file specifically, it was asking me to, so like I clicked the save button and I don't think it's saving. And then I checked what I uploaded and it wasn't the right thing. And then when let me try this one more time. So I try to cancel out of it.
I'm checking your uploads on Canvas right now too.
It's like not giving the right version of my R file. So it's like somehow my R file got broken into 2 pieces. And then one, when I try to save it, it says choose encoding.
Yeah, so that'll happen sometimes. It's usually the first time you saved in R. So that's why I'm surprised. There was somebody else that had this issue earlier that we didn't catch at the first lab. You just want to choose the default one. Actually, I know why this happened. Did you copy and paste over from the PDF?
From the PDF to the R file?
Yeah, like when you were doing the comments for the questions, did you copy and paste from the PDF over to the R file?
I did, yeah.
That's why. So what happens is some of the characters, I'll have to mention this next time, I forgot about this. Some of the characters in the PDF, the way that your computer encodes them is different than how R encodes them. So when you go to save, R gets confused because it's like, wait a minute, you've got 2 different encodings here. What's going on? And so then if you just choose to save it as the default, it should fix it. But my guess is that's why it split it into 2 files. So what I would do is just, copy and paste them back into 1 file and then resave it. And if it doesn't work, let me know. But that's what happened. Every once in a while, if you copy and paste from a PDF into R, and I forgot about that, you'll get that issue.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to give that a shot right now.
Yeah, and like I said, if it doesn't work, let me know.
Dr. Ellis, I have problems with my notebook, but I have no idea how to fix them. Can I share my screen?
Yeah.
So the first time I run it, so first I still have the problem with the text. Even if I unloaded everything and reloaded with the order that you recommended,
it still didn't. It might just be better to knit yours to Word then. What happens if you knit it to a Word document?
Word works.
I would just stick with that method then.
Yeah, but I would like to use LaTeX in future.
So let me see if I can figure it out then. And so when you reinstall, so you uninstalled everything and you installed the MikTeX first, correct? Oh, and are you on a Windows or a Mac machine?
Windows.
Okay, yeah, so that should have fixed it on
So I install R first or MikTeX first?
MikTeX first.
Okay, I figured.
MikTeX before RStudio. That's the important piece. Did you do the MikTeX before RStudio?
So MikTeX first, and then R Studio.
Yes.
Ugh,
What,
I have to do
which
it
order
again.
did you download it in?
I think I did it with R Studio, and then MikTeX.
Yeah, that's the issue. You can't do MikTeX last. So R Studio has to be the last one. What happens is when you install R Studio, in that installation process, R Studio goes and looks at the path file on your computer, and it automatically looks for MikTeX. So
Okay.
if you download MikTeX last, R Studio wasn't able to find it. And so what's happening now is R Studio is saying, hey, I can't find your MikTeX installation. You can go in and change the path on your computer. I've done it on mine, but if you're not familiar with doing that, I wouldn't recommend it. I would just uninstall them, but you want to do R Studio last. That's the important piece.
Cool. Another question is regarding in the notebook, do we need to use the number sign to say this is not code?
Nope. So in a notebook, you can just do regular text. That's one of the benefits of the notebook is you actually don't want that. You just want the, you can just write it in as plain text, because what's happening, the only places that R considers this to be code is those code chunks. So like where you've got the single quotes and then the R, like in those environments. Yes, exactly. Those are the only places that R is considering what you type to be code. Everywhere else, R just sees that as plain text, like you were working in a Word file.
Nice. And then can you take a look of my R notebook to make sure I got what you want?
Yeah, so in number 4, I don't want you to tell me what descriptive statistics are. I want you to tell me based on the summary of
describe it.
Yeah, describe what you found from when you analyze the data.
I see. And also the plots, do I describe the plot as well?
Exactly. You want to, because the whole purpose is you're writing a report about the CARS data set.
Okay,
so that's why
I
you want to have, your code, and then you'll talk a little bit about it. Now, if you want to see what these look like, so for example, if you go to this, see where you've got summary. Oh, go back to your notebook for me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so do you see where you've got summary? Go all the way to there to the right, and you see that green arrow? A little too far.
This one runs.
It will automatically run it for you and show you what it is. So now you can just, look at that, type in a little bit about those descriptive statistics.
Okay, cool. Thanks
You're
for
welcome. And you can do that for any of those code chunks. So that way you don't have to go back to your script.
Okay, would you mind to take a look at my script as well? I have confidence on them, but
scrolling through here, this looks pretty good. And if it all ran and you didn't get any errors,
no errors.
Yeah, this all looks good.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You have a good week.
You too. Thank you.
All right, I made a histogram.
It feels good, doesn't it, when you get something?
It does.
Up? It's exciting.
When I was in the other room, I told my story about Barnes and Nobles. Me screaming in Barnes and Nobles. I did something right. Okay, so I'm trying to add the title. So I understand that you use the histogram function.
Yeah, so I actually made it was in the chat. You didn't see it because you were in the other room. Let me I'm just gonna put this in the chat for you. The way that I wrote those directions wasn't the clearest. You want to use, oops, let me fix that. You want to use the main argument, not title. So I've got a little example there of how you would want to do that.
Look at, oh, there. Oh, fun. Okay.
Yeah, the way I wrote that wasn't very clear.
So what I noticed the $ repeatedly, and I remember it in the last class. What does a $ usually indicate in?
Yeah, so it just gives you a handy way to pull different variables from a data set or different columns from a data set. So for example,
it's the same as the brackets.
Yeah, it's the same as bracket. It's just another way. And you'll see this in R. There are always going to be more than one ways to do the same thing. So the nice thing though about the $, if you use that option, so for example, if I call MT cars and I do a $sign, R will automatically, or R Studio automatically pulls up a drop-down menu of all of the variables in this data set.
Okay.
So that can keep you from, like if you were going to call MPG, it keeps you from accidentally using like a capital M, for example, or doing anything, misspelling anything, because now you can just scroll through here and click on the one you want and it automatically populates.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so the $signs are pretty handy. Most of the time, if I'm calling a column from a data frame, I'll use the $sign. But it's important to know about, all, the other options as well.
Yes. All right. So I'm going to do that. And let's see what this stands for. And PG is miles, gasoline.
Gus wanted to say hi.
Hi, Gus.
You being bad? He said, yeah, I'm being bad.
He's like, you need to pay attention to me.
Oh, he's just been in here crying.
Yeah, he's just like, you're not focusing on me, lady.
He says, I
feel like
the important thing. Look at me.
I feel like that's what my cat tells me all the time. You're not focusing on me, lady.
Look at me. Look at me. Is this done? Is this what you wanted? Hmm? You're goofy. Did that work?
Yes, it did.
Perfect.
Yes. I'm cruising along. And I know we're getting close to class time, so I think
Oh,
I'll
we still got 30 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm fine. You take your time.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate
And
it.
when you get done with the script, let me know, and I'll walk through the R notebook again for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. You done? Is that good? Is that what you wanted?
He says maybe.
Oh, he's wagging his nub. He's like, that's what I wanted. Spoiled rotten. Yeah, especially because you're in the HISPA concentration, right?
Yes.
This will be good for you, because you'll be, after this course, you'll have a pretty good R background that you'll be able to say, if you go somewhere that you're going to be analyzing data, you should be able to, do quite a bit in R after this.
Yeah, I've been looking at a lot of like jobs recently to look more into like where start applying. And after I just started this class, like with you guys, I'm very excited about it because I think this is kind of what I was missing to understand. I think the R was just intimidating and like software is just intimidating. And this breaks it down in such a way that I'm learning how to use the language versus copying the language.
Yep. No, and that is one of the disadvantages. It's hard because, to do any data analysis, you've got to use the software, but you can't really teach both. You can't really have one course that in depth goes back and goes into the concept, the statistical concepts, and it goes in depth in how to program in the language. It would be too much for one class, if that makes sense.
Yes. No. That makes that. I think yes, I agree. Definitely understand.
Yeah, after this class, you should be good. And this should help with your capstone too. Have you started your capstone yet?
Yes, I picked my topic and I'm really excited. I was actually going to email you and see if you wouldn't mind me asking you just a few questions as things pop up. But I'm going to be doing it on multi-health, or I want to look at accreditation of public health departments and see how I'm sorry, I've been doing
Oh no, you're good.
But their ability to collaborate with other
I see you've got yours now.
Yes. To collaborate with other public health organizations within the community. And so Dr. Ingram did research on that a while ago. So he is working with me on that. But
oh, good. So he has data for you.
Yes, he has data for me. Yeah, we're going to look at Ohio before accreditation and then after accreditation and see if collaboration was effective or not between the communities.
Oh, nice.
So I'm really excited about it, and I think that it's something that translates well anywhere if I go anywhere in the country.
Yep.
So
No, I think you're right. No, that'll be good. And then are you gonna well, I guess it depends on what you're doing with the data, but do you know, are you gonna use R? Are you gonna use SAS? Do you
I
know
think
what you're gonna use?
I'm most comfortable with R.
Okay, I was gonna say, and if
I
you
know
need
that might sound
help,
crazy, but
like if there's something that you want to do and we haven't done it in the class yet, just ask me and I'll send you whatever code you need or help you through it. Because it might be there's something you want to do, but we haven't covered it yet.
yeah, and it also might be just review things from the our linear regressions class, because I understand the concept of linear regression, but it's getting back. What do you need?
You, she needs you.
I think I want you, lady.
But yeah, no, I'm happy to help with that. Now we are going to do, let's see, is it next week we start? It's next week, or I think it's the week after. We're going to do 2 whole weeks on visualization. So you should be able to get some pretty nice plots made. And I'm actually, so something I didn't show you all in the other classes, there's some more sophisticating plotting in R called Ggplot. And I'm going to teach you all how to use Ggplot.
I'm stuck on the use the summary function to find summary statistics for MPG variable. Oh wait, I might be. Oh, I just deleted everything. Okay. Summary. Yeah, I'm using it right.
You want to pull up your screen?
Yeah. Share screen. And then never. Okay. Oh, it's this one. I have a lot of windows. Okay, so I can pull this more over. I'm sorry. Okay, so
what you got there looks good, but okay, so look a couple steps ahead. Notice when you made a histogram, you had to feed the histogram function what you wanted to make a histogram of.
Right.
Well, you got to do the same thing with summary function. What do you want a summary of? So your parentheses were right. Like what you had there was right. It's just
we have to use the brackets, right, or the $sign.
Either one. So it's so think of it. So this here. Wait, hold on. Before you do that, let's go back up to the histogram one.
This one up
here. Yeah. So look at the one right above it. So one more. Okay. So let's just look at the structure of this. Notice there's 2 different pieces. There's the hist function. So you've got hist open and close parentheses, right?
Yes.
So that's the hist function. And then inside of those parentheses, you have the entire thing that you want to make a histogram. Yeah, there you go.
And then you would either put your question mark or the parentheses.
Yes. Okay. You don't have to do quotations if you use the $sign.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that's so you're right. If the brackets, you got to use $sign. You don't.
$sign you don't.
There you go.
Wow, Sever, look at that. Look what I just did.
Oh, wait until you get to where we're making these fancy plots. Now we're going to do all kinds of stuff.
Last semester, I was showing my mom. She's like, I have no idea what that is. And I was like, I don't know, but I'm excited about it.
Hey, stuff. And that's one of the nice things about coding is I was talking to Ron about it. Like when it comes to grading for this class, you all know whether or not, for the most part, whether or not your work is correct or not, because did you get output,
Yeah.
So you get that instant gratification when you write this code. If it runs and it looks like it should, then you did it right.
That what you're turning in is correct, because we also had enough background in these topics.
Yeah.
And then I know what she wants. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it in a second.
Oh, careful! You want a $sign, not an ampersand.
Thank you.
Okay. And you want gear, not MPG.
Summarize the gear. Oh. Is it VS? No.
Oh, no, it was on there. If you scroll down, it was just down towards the bottom.
Gear. Gear variable. Gear. Not. I wasn't looking for variable. I'm looking for gear. Okay, run. Okay.
There you go. So what this is saying is, for this data set, it's cars and how many gears they have. So there are 15 cars in the data set that had 3 gears, 12 that had 4, and 5 that had 5.
Yes. Okay.
So that's your whole script.
Ooh.
So let me show you, if you want to stop sharing, I'll show you how to make the notebook.
Okay.
All right. Where do I go?
Yeah, I've been looking at a lot of policy analyst jobs and a lot of entry level. So I feel like I would have enough background to be comfortable in that. So
yeah, and by the end of this course, you should. The only thing that might get you is it depends on where the job is as to what software they'll use.
Mhm.
So some of them might use SAS, some of them might use R, you might have SPSS. But the nice thing is, in all honesty, once you learn one language, picking up the next one isn't nearly as hard. So even though SAS and R are really different from one another, understanding the mechanics of one helps you pick up additional ones.
I'm in the SAS equivalent of this class.
Oh,
as well.
perfect. So yeah, you should be good then.
Ooh.
Yeah, that'll be a huge help.
Yeah.
All right, so let me show you how to make the notebooks. So to start out with, you're going to make the notebook pretty much just like you did the script. You're going to come up here in the upper left hand and then click on our notebook.
Mm-hmm.
And what that does is that opens up a sample R notebook that pretty much it's a template is what it is. And so we'll actually take most of this out for yours, but it always auto populates this just to remind you how to work with an R notebook. So the first thing you want to do is save this. So go ahead and do a save as, and give it some reasonable name and save it wherever you're saving the files for the course.
Okay.
Then I've got one I've already been working on, so let me pull it up. And then let me know once you've got that saved.
Okay, I'm moving.
Right. So next thing, let's change your title to something more reasonable. So you could do report on MT cars or lab 2, or just give it some title that seems reasonable.
Just a moment. I had to save my other lab really fast.
Oh,
really fast, sorry.
No, you're fine.
I didn't
So
notice.
we've still got 20 minutes. You're good.
Save. Okay, now I'm gonna go over here, make new, our notebook. And we're gonna go file, save as. We're gonna call it Vasquez so you can see what class, who's doing this. All right, we're doing great. Save. Okay.
So next thing, change the title, give it some reasonable title.
Okay. Motor Vaz, like, I don't know. Do you want her name in it?
Sure. Anything other than our notebook is really what I'm looking for here.
Okay. Christine Vasquez's motor vehicle report.
Perfect. All right, so next thing we're gonna do before we make any other changes, let's just go ahead and knit it to make sure everything's gonna knit. Last class, did you knit to a PDF or to a Word document?
To a PDF.
Perfect. All right, so if you go up to the top, yours probably says preview at first, but
yes,
if you click down, there'll be a knit to PDF option, so just click on that, and that will go ahead and knit it.
Okay.
And then you should get a PDF that comes up.
It's working on it.
Yeah, first time, it's usually kind of slow the first time.
All right, I have my PDF.
Perfect. Okay, so now everything's running, and that PDF is just generated from, pardon me, the template. But we're going to get rid of most of this. So now, what you want to do, is it showing you the lab PDF right now, or is it still showing you RStudio on my screen?
I'm seeing the PDF.
Perfect. Okay. So what you'll notice is if you look at the different steps here that you're going to put in your notebook, they
Mhm.
alternate between written text and code.
Mhm.
So for example, the first one is a brief written description of the data set. So what you'll do is you'll just start out here. You've probably got some other text right here, just delete that out. And
Okay.
you're going to write a couple sentences about the MT cars. And to remind yourself about the MT cars, remember in your script, you ran the question mark MT cars, right? And you brought that up in the help section. So you can read about that and then just write a couple sentences summarizing MT cars.
Okay.
And then, so then notice the next step will be a coding step. It'll say code to read in the data set. So in your notebook, anytime you're writing code, it needs to be between these two lines.
Okay.
And you can make new code chunks. So for example, later on, when you go to do the next code chunk, you can come up here to insert R and it'll make a new one. But just remember, any code that you have has to be in one of these environments.
Let me make sure I know how to do that. You did that by,
It's this little button up here. It's got like a green C.
oh,
And
yes.
you're doing a code, an R code chunk.
Yes, I'm on the boat.
Perfect. And so that's it. You're going to kind of alternate these. And then the main idea here, what you're doing is you're writing code. That code is going to automatically produce some output. And then you're going to help the reader interpret that output. And so you'll write a couple sentences.
Okay.
And then a lot of people have been asking about that second step. So let me go over that really quick. It says code to read in the data set.
Okay.
There's two different ways to do that. So let me show you both of them.
Yeah, I used to just go to the last time we had a read in data and copy and paste what you did and then just
move it
throw
over.
it back.
And that
So
works too. Now this one's a little different than that though, because we're not reading in a CSV. We're using one of the pre-built data sets. And all.
yes. So this is good. That's what I was meaning. Like this is good that I'm doing this now.
No, that's exactly. So these are the two methods. This is the one that's close to what I showed you in the module 2.2. All I'm doing is I'm making a new data set and I'm setting it equal to the MT cars. Now, if you do this though, pardon me, when you copy your code over from your script, you'll have to change the name of the data set to this. The other method that I showed people, which is a little bit easier, is you just run this line of code. If you use this line of code, it tells R to expect the MT cars data set and that you're going to use it. And then it kind of just pulls it forward so the notebook can use it.
Okay. What does the class MT cars do?
That's the one that just tells the class of the of that data set and says it's a data frame. So that one you should have had in your script in step 2. So that one I had in there just for illustration.
Oh yes. I'm on. Yes.
All right, so I'll stop sharing and let you get started on that.
I'm sorry. It wasn't class. It was data.
Yes.
Data underscore.
Just data, and then inside the parentheses. Here, let me pull it up so you can see it.
MT cars.
Yeah. And so that just pulls the data set forward. So it's this one right here.
Yes. Okay. I just remember the class because I physically said it out loud, and I was like, wait a second. Okay, I'm on the boat.
Like I said, and that just pulls it forward so the notebook can use it.
Okay. And then class just lets me see it in our window.
Yeah. Class will pull it in, but it also tells you that it's a data frame.
Yes. Which.
So, for example, like if it was a matrix, it would have said matrix instead, and then you would have had to convert it like we did in module 2.2. But here, MT cars is already a data frame.
So, you got it. Honda, Toyota, all that is the make of a car, not the
Sorry, say
model.
that again for me.
Like a Honda, Toyota, Volkswagen, those are makes of cars.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know. I almost wrote model and I was like, wait a second, it's not a model. I was like,
Yeah,
make?
no, you're right. Because that's the make, and then the mod. So like I have a Mazda CX-5.
Yeah.
So the
So the
model
make.
is the CX-5. The make is the Mazda.
All right.
I just said that backwards, but yes, I think that makes sense.
I wanted to be accurate.
Yeah, no, I'm terrible with that. I know nothing about cars. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, I by accident told the AAA guy that I had. He's like, this can't be a 2016. I was like, oh, it's a 2050. Or no, it was like I said the wrong year, and he was like, "Are you sure?" I guess not.
What year my car is? It's like a 15, 16. I don't know. It's somewhere.
I don't know. What are those?
It's one of those years. You figure it out.
Trend car road tests and examining car. 32. 32. What about that? Here. We did that. Next step. Code to read in data, code and output computing descriptive statistics about the variable MPG.
Yep. So you've actually already written the code for this. So
Yes.
remember you used the summary earlier?
Yes.
So if you don't mind, copy that code into your notebook. And when you get it in there, share your screen and I'll show you something.
Okay. Push in the green, add R. And you probably want a space in between here. Okay, and I'm going to share my screen. Share screen. Also, I'm very glad for the dark background.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now what you're going to want to do, go ahead and just delete out all of that text that's below, like all that template stuff. We don't need that. Just get rid of it. All right, so now the next step is you're going to write a little bit about those summary statistics. So let me show you the easiest way to see. This is going to give you a preview of what the output's going to look like in your document. So on the right-hand side of this code chunk, do you see the little green arrow?
Mm-hmm.
Click on it, and it will go ahead and run it. So now you see the output from that code. So now just right below, you can decide what you want to type.
So all of these, we're looking at motor cars, miles per gallon.
Yep.
Okay.
So you can just talk about, so I would probably say something like, we can see the mean and the median are close, approximately 20 miles per gallon. But if you look at, for example, the min and the max, there's a huge difference there. You've got a range of 23 miles per gallon there. But this way it makes it easy that, because what you're doing, the piece you're typing now, that's to help the person that you're going to send the report to understand the output. But for you, while you're typing, it makes it nice to have that output right above so you can reference that while you type. Exactly. And I'm not really looking for anything in particular. The real point of this is just to understand how to weave output and written text together to make a report that's understandable, if that makes sense. There's not really a, something in particular I'm looking for in your description. It's just more understanding that you can create a report that uses both, code and written language.
Oh, it's a comma. Okay. All right.
And the other thing I'll show you, if you look up top, it has spell check built into it too. So see, like you've got observation spelled incorrectly, a couple lines up. It does a nice little squiggly line, just like Word does. Oh yeah, and that one. But all the way, like in your top where you're describing the data set.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yes.
So it's nice because it's got spell. I need that all the time. So your R scripts don't have spell check, but your R notebooks do.
We're a fan of that.
Oh yeah, I need that. So yeah, so your other code chunks you write are going to be very similar to what you've just done here. Now, what I would do is I would go ahead and stop though, because you've added some stuff to your notebook. Go ahead and knit it again and make sure everything looks good.
Knit. We're knit.
The other benefit, when at each time you knit, it automatically saves the file.
Oh, that's
so another benefit to knitting often.
All right, I got it.
Perfect. So yeah, so pretty much every time I add in a code chunk or I write anything, I go ahead and knit. So that way, in case something goes wrong, I know what part of the document has the issue in it.
Okay. All right, so next step. A few sentences. Okay, we did that. Code and output plotting the variable MPG. So we want.
Choice is yours, but you made a box plot and a histogram. You can add whichever one you want.
I'm going to do the histogram. So I'm going to add, then go R, and then we're going to go back over here and get my beautiful histogram.
Oh, wait. With the title on it.
And doot.
And same thing, you can hit that little green arrow.
Oh, yes. We don't have to read it. Doot. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. Okay.
And so now, if you click down below that histogram, so the next step is going to have you describe something about that histogram. Now you can look at the histogram while you describe it.
Okay. It's basically the same thing as a summary. So like as most vehicles have a miles per gallon be 15 and 20. Dude, 8. That means that there is 8 vehicles.
Yes, within that range. So I would probably put here maybe something like, you could say the highest bar, or we could see the most frequent. That might be a better, instead of saying there is a frequency, you could say the most frequent. But so
maybe
most of the time when we use that kind of language, we're really talking about bar plots instead of histograms. For a histogram, I would maybe talk about the shape of the histogram.
The shape of it.
Yeah, so remember, it could be left skewed, right skewed, or it could be symmetric. So looking at this one, what shape would you say?
Is left skewed.
Oh, it's right skewed.
Oh no!
Because remember, think about which hand you're pulling the tail at. So see how this one looks like it's pulled a little bit to the right? So you've got more data on the left than you do on the right.
Oh,
But you're right, it is skewed.
I said it so confidently too. Okay, so skewed. So let's just say it for fun again. So the side that is skewed is the side with less data?
Yes. So one way to think about it is envision that you had like a nice symmetric distribution and you wrapped your hands around both the ends. Whichever end you would need to pull out to make it look like the plot, that's the direction of the skew.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So you can, so on this one, since most of that data, and this one just has a slight skew, it's really not bad. But since it's got more data grouped on the left side, it makes it look like somebody pulled the right side out a little bit. So that's why the skew goes to the right.
And why we use the word skewed, I'm going to put it right up here so I can look at it every day.
That's how I always remember. I just envision myself wrapping my hands around the distribution, and whichever side I pull out to make that shape, that's the side that's the skew.
Wow. All right.
Yep, and then that's good. That's a really, like, again, because really the purpose of this assignment is just so you can see how you can, you know, combine this information, and then you could give a report to somebody. So you're done.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Okay.
And then on Canvas, you don't have to turn in the .rmd file. You just have to turn in the PDF version and then your R script.
Okay. So I am printing it.
You're done with this week's work.
Yay!
It's really good. It's done.
Confetti when you turn in something.
It's a good feeling.
It is. It is, and it's like different every time. Like sometimes it's cats, sometimes it's presents. I don't know who did that, but they need a promotion.
Yeah, I didn't realize it did that for you all.
Oh yeah, I'm very into it because it's like your own little party.
I'm gonna have to like enter as a student and see what happens if it doesn't.
Yeah. Oh no, there's confetti and then there's some type of like images that come out with it.
Really? Okay, yeah, I'm gonna check this out because I did not know this. I like that.
I do too. Okay, I'm trying to knit it. It's just having a hard time right now, so I'm gonna try.
Uh-oh, we got a problem. That's fine. Go back to your RMD for me.
Oh. Where?
Oh no, you're on the right file. Just scroll down the bottom for me.
Oh,
It's angry about something and I don't know what.
Oh, is it this period?
No. What's it mad about?
Do I need to undo this?
No, scroll up to the right above that plot for me. It doesn't like chunk 3. Why doesn't it like chunk 3?
Maybe I can make this bigger. No, that doesn't help you. Oh. Is this more helpful?
No, everything here looks good. Scroll down the bottom for me one more time. Do you see line 22? Will you delete out that blank for me? So just, yeah, click there and then click delete. There we go. Try running it now. For some reason, it's been having trouble with blank lines, and I don't know why. See if that fixes it.
It probably will. Yeah. Oh, wait. No? Yeah.
No, it's still messed up.
It's still going.
Now, sometimes, this is a trick here. Sometimes it will tell you an error, but that is not actually an error. So let's look at, what does your PDF look like?
Oh, I don't know how to bring you with me. Oh, resume share. So this is the last. Nope.
Oh, it's still showing your, yeah.
Okay. This is the last PDF I was able to do, was the last check that you and I did.
Well, it's still showing me the RStudio screen, not the PDF.
Oh, new share. What? Desktop. Show her everything. All right. So this is the PDF that I'm currently that I got from the original time we saved together. The second time.
Close this file. Like, don't minimize it. Actually, close it.
Okay.
Okay. And then now what I want you to do is don't knit. Well, okay. No, it's fine. Let's see. It might work now.
I can push down. I was too excited.
On the drop down next to knit.
Drop down next to knit.
Click on knit to HTML.
Knit to HTML.
I'm curious. Sometimes it'll knit to HTML. Okay, so it is a problem with.
Oh, is it like these spaces?
Oh, take them out and see if it makes it happy.
Take them out.
Yeah, the spaces. Although I don't think that should be an issue. Like,
all right, all spaces are gone.
yeah, try it now. Yeah, normally it's not picky with spaces, so I'm not sure. But like I said, no. Okay, so it's not happy. Found in resource path. All right, scroll down for me.
Yes.
So all the way down.
That's it. Does it want a few spaces after the last line?
I don't think so. We do a favor. Can you just email me that .rmd file? I'm gonna try running it on my computer.
Yes. So I'm gonna go in Outlook.
Yeah, that's bizarre because I'm not seeing an issue.
I have to do my screening. That's going to be the first email. I know it.
Oh yeah, it always. And I get the text too.
Yeah, and then it texts me, and I was like, "You haven't done it in the next 3 days. We're going to tell your advisor." I was like, "Please don't tell Brett. She doesn't need that."
So I had COVID last week. And the only good part about it was I didn't get the UK Daily Screen email.
Yeah, because you didn't have to do it anymore. They just
when you have COVID, they don't send them, so it's good. And I didn't even realize it until I got released, and then I started getting the emails again, and I was like, I gotta do these again.
My roommate, she's a pharmacy student, and she's an intern with Chandler Hospital, so she's doing that all the time. Yeah. And so she had COVID when I was in Florida, and then she's like, "Yeah, I can't do any of the like screenings or nose swabs or anything like that because she's had COVID too recently."
Yeah, that's what they said. I can't do it for 3 months. 3 months.
Yeah.
I'm telling people to now. Yep.
Because now I have to go again. Like, I've been tested so many times, so I have to go back again. And she's like, "I don't have to do that because I had COVID." I was like, "Okay."
That's one of the other pluses because I hate having it done.
Okay, so I need to. Where did I save it then? It's not happy. I'm sorry. These are all my other classes too.
Oh no, you're good.
This is you right here, and it's not.
If you go back to R, I can probably figure out where it is, or R Studio. Click on in the bottom right-hand corner in that window, click on the Files tab.
This one?
Yep. Right there. Scroll down. Did it get populated in there maybe? No. Okay, so go now to the console for me.
Console? This right here.
Yeah. So go down the bottom, click there, and then type the following line of code in for me. Type in GET, so get, WD, open and close parentheses. Hit enter. That's where it saved your file to.
I hate that. So it's in here? What is Christine Vasquez?
Might be your desktop.
It has to be in recent.
Yeah. Surely, right?
I guess it is I just saved it to my desktop. But this is my desktop. This is it.
What's the name of the file?
It should be Vasquez. It's Vasquez_lab notebook.
Yeah, I didn't see that file there.
_lab.
There it is.
There it is.
Wherever that is.
Oh, it's this one.
Yeah, send me that.
I'll fix that while I send this to you.
Yeah, and I wonder if that might be the issue too.
I just put the subject as file.
I got it already. It was quick. So let me knit this and see what I get. Huh. Well, that's interesting. I knitted it with no problem.
Oh, sure. Sure.
So that means.
Okay, I actually saved it in the correct place. So I moved.
Yeah, I might just have you close our studio and reopen the file and try knitting it and see what happens.
It did it.
Yeah, sometimes that's the easiest fix. I don't know why.
Oh, it's an HTML now.
Choose the PDF, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm sure it's fine. So maybe just moving it and putting it in the right spot, it makes it happy.
Oh, come on, Annette. What are you doing?
Oh, it's getting error again. Shut the front door. What about Word? Can we knit to Word and I change it to a PDF? Yeah, I can do that. All right, I'm gonna change it from Word into a PDF. I don't know why it's.
That's the easiest fix. I mean, it.
Mad at me.
Go to the Word document for me for a second.
Yes.
Try to figure out. Nope, that looks good. Yeah, no, that looks great.
All right, sounds good. Oh.
Yeah, I say you can just fix it in the Word, or I think if you add a space after the histogram in the .rmd file, it'll fix it as well.
Wait. Sorry, my computer's being slow right now. I have a lot open. Yes, I can fix this.
Perfect. Yep, just save that as PDF, turn it in, and then if you have that problem later on with the PDF, we'll troubleshoot and figure out what's going on there.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, not a problem. You have a great day and have a great weekend.
You too. Bye.
Bye.